Hello, and welcome to the What Inspires You podcast. My name is Paul.
And I'm Brandon. Join us as we rediscover wonder through inspiring conversation. Well, my deep well of questioning begins with this. Have you ever had one of those dreams where you were flying?
Floating.
Floating? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Was it like a happy dream, or was it almost like uncontrolled flying, or like I'm flying and I'm free, or was it like I'm flying and I think I'm falling? Like
Okay. It was mostly freeing.
freeing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I had the most vivid one I have is I was like floating in like a room, and so I was like bouncing off the ceiling, and it's like probably after seeing Willy Wonka or something, to be honest. But yeah, that was where I remember it most vividly, and it was kind of like I could kind of flap my arms to move around, but it was mostly just like uncontrolled floating. But
Okay.
It was overall a positive experience.
Yeah. The interesting thing that I think about when it comes to dreams where you're doing like a supernatural feat, particularly like flying, is I wonder if we got that idea into our subconscious because in the modern era we fly in planes and flying is very fictionalized and stuff like that.
Sure.
I wonder if in ancient times they thought about flying as much as we do today. Because it wasn't like a human achievement. It's like I wonder if people 1,000 years ago would wake up and have dreams of like, I dreamt that I was flying like a bird,
Yeah.
It's like I wonder if they had that or not. I don't know.
Probably, because then you have Leonardo da Vinci.
People were making, flight attempts throughout history.
Chinese would fly kites.
Maybe people were doing some gliders or things like that,
Sure.
Might have been doing that.
On a windy day, you hold open your cloak and turn
Dracula opens up his cloak and
turns into a bat.
flies off somewhere.
And you have Icarus and
Icarus.
his dad flying.
And didn't they try to fly to the sun or something?
They were trying to escape their place, and then
Oh,
as
yeah.
they were escaping, the sun got a little.
Too hot and like melted their outfits or something like that.
Yeah, he wanted to go higher and higher.
Oh, yeah.
Don't go that high. And he's like, but I want to.
Yeah.
And the wax on his wings melted.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They had wax on the wings. Yeah. Well, what I wanted to talk about today was the idea of flight. I just think that it seems classic. There's something classic, I think, about flying and sort of like a dreamlike state of flying and it being a very supernatural activity, and it's kind of inspiring. And what I think I want to talk about most with the idea of flight is how I won't speak for all of humanity, but I'll try.
Just 1 second. My super sensitive ears can hear that.
Yes, superpowers.
Yeah.
But I think that in the advent of having now flying craft, right, being able to fly on planes, and even to a certain extent with cars, I feel like the thrill of flying has almost become logistical and monotonous. Like, I think it is still exciting to fly in a plane and you like look down from 30,000 feet and you can see the outline of the coast or the landscape or the city or whatever.
Just how many mountains covered with snow there are.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of cool things with flight, but oftentimes when I'm on planes, people are just watching a movie. They're not looking out the window. They're trying to sleep. Somebody's taking like shots of something. There's
always a few of those. Yeah.
It's almost more of like a hassle than it is like a thrill.
Yeah.
And I almost wonder if that idea of I wish I could be a bird and fly, and like I wish I could just like be up in the sky, and what would it be like to look down on the land like everyone was little ants? It's like I feel like that's a thing that for thousands of years people have probably dreamt of and wanted to do, and now we can do it. And it's almost like I just wish it was over, you know? Because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Sometimes you look out the window, it's just clouds or it's just a vast ocean.
I love when I love when you're above the clouds and you just see like the top of the clouds, you know,
Oh,
for
yeah.
like
That is cool.
forever. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, I like flying next to clouds, or I always think that is pretty cool. Yeah.
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 Like it just looks like a weird, like extra world, like cloud world where you could just walk forever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, wow.
I think, though, that flying is interesting because not only is it, you know, just fast mode of transportation being in a plane, but I think also the idea of flight is the idea of a different perspective, right? When you're high up in the sky, you look down on the earth and you see things differently.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that before flying in planes, the only way you could really get that kind of viewpoint is if you climbed up on top of a mountain.
Mm.
And I think that that's another interesting thing about modern flight is I feel like modern flight has almost devalued the mountaintop viewpoint. Because before flying in planes, if you're like, I need to see over the land, like I need to get above the trees and see like the landscape, you'd have to go climb up onto a mountain. And then it was, now I have vision, I have sight, I have perspective, right? And that's kind of like the mountaintop wisdom or whatever, you know? It's like that idea that you see over things. And so you had to like do some hard work. You had to hike up to the mountain. You had to get up there. Then you could get the viewpoint. And even when we got cars, you could kind of drive up the mountain a little faster and it made it easier. It wasn't like as much work. It wasn't as rare of an experience, you know? I think that like now it's so accessible to get onto the mountaintop to see things.
Yeah.
And I think even, you know, with planes, it's like, and photography, you know, there's tons of photos of mountain views and the view of a city and you look down on things with airplanes and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like that's another thing in modern society we've lost is kind of the specialness of like a higher viewpoint and the significance of looking over like a vast landscape, you know, the vantage point, you know? Yeah. And so I think that's interesting that we lose that. And I guess I want to re-inspire the beauty of having a vantage point. The view is like spectacular and it should be enjoyed. It's a good thing. Like we should enjoy that more. And the idea of flying that like now, gosh, we can fly and like it should be like a thrill, but instead it's like a hassle. Like, why is that? Like, how can we re-inspire?
Yeah, back when people used to like dress up to go on the plane.
You dress up. It was like kind of a luxury event. You probably had to pay a lot of more money for it. I don't know.
Yeah, you got to smoke. So
you got to smoke. So it was all cool.
Yeah,
they served you cocktails.
Right.
You know, I don't know.
Party plane.
I don't know. Yeah, party plane.
Yeah, no one was worried about terrorism.
50s and 60s. Yeah, nobody was doing bad things in the plane.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, it is. Yeah, planes definitely don't seem like the greatest way to recapture, yeah, they don't seem like the greatest way to enjoy flight these days.
No.
But there is a lot of good ways that I can inspire people with. I think, dude. Like, think about Coeur d'Alene Lake. You get to fly on there, right? Not just with the seaplane, with the parasailing.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great way to fly.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you brought that up because I was going to say one of my favorite things is when I'm in a boat and you're in the front of the boat going really fast over the water and it feels like you're just sort of flying a few feet over the water.
Yeah.
I love that feeling. That always is really enjoyable to me.
Do you like lay on the front and hold your arms out?
No.
Superman?
Only if somebody's holding me from behind and Celine Dion is singing.
My heart will go on. Or maybe that's Gladiator. I don't even know.
And then I push Jack over into the frozen water. And I don't really cared about you anyway. No, it's the sensation of kind of flying across the water or like
would you go parasailing?
Oh yeah, I would totally do that. Yeah, okay. I would go do that. That would be fun.
Doesn't freak you out?
It would freak me out, but I just do it anyway. Yeah.
It's a good policy for most of life.
Yeah, I just have to suck it up and do it.
Yeah.
I'll just pee my pants down on the fish. It's okay.
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And the going over the water or you can do like little seaplane tours or like helicopter tours are cool. Those are good ways to like enjoy the activity of flight, I think.
You know what I did? That's very inspiring.
What?
Hot air balloon.
Yeah. Hot air balloon.
Super crazy.
Where did you do that again?
Montana.
Oh yeah, Montana.
Yeah.
That's right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It was like about an hour trip in a hot air balloon, and it's just like you just go to some like random parking lot in a town. They're like got a van with a basket on it, and they have like a big, flat canvas laid out, and then they're like, all right, light up the torches. And it's like this huge butane burner.
Yeah.
It's like sending like literally a 10-foot flame.
Wow.
Into like this, fabric that's not burning, which is impressive.
Yeah.
And then just, I don't know, it took maybe like 20 minutes to fill up the hot air balloon.
Wow.
And then they're like, all right, everyone get in the basket. All right, cool. And then kind of as they're filling it up, people are like, they've got crew on the ground holding the ropes and stuff. And it's like, it's amazing how fine tuned the lift versus the weight is. Because like basically as soon as like they'll have people let go of ropes in like sequence, right? And so then like by the end, like one guy is holding this entire balloon, all the people in.
Yeah.
With like his own, body weight is enough to like change the balance of lift versus weight.
Yeah.
And so then he lets go, and then it's like, okay, we're off.
Wow.
And then they can just, it's so crazy like how much they can control a hot air balloon without like any fans or whatever. Like the captain guy had to like study the air currents the day before.
Wow.
And like he flies the area a lot, so he knows like basically it's crazy. Like the air has so many different currents in it, like at different heights, like the wind could be blowing like completely different directions. So if he wants to go like to the left, he might know that there's like an air current above that goes to the left. So he'll go up like, 30 feet, and then balloon starts moving left instead. And so he kind of like, basically follows all the currents up and down to like kind of steer himself and go where he wants to go. Within reason. It's a little bit, it's not an exact science, but.
Dude, that would be a cool fantasy story if all transportation was done via air balloons.
Whoa.
That would be cool.
That would be cool.
It's just everybody's just got their own personal air balloon. All right, I'm going to the grocery store. You fly in your air balloon.
It's great because it's silent. So it's like.
It's super quiet.
Yeah.
It feels really relaxing and peaceful.
It is.
Yeah.
It was funny. He was flying, and then at one point we were like going over a park, kind of like, not like it was just like a more open field park. But he flew like 10 feet over someone's head. Whoa. And like snuck up on this like massive hot air balloon with like 6 people in it.
Whoa, dude.
And he's just like, I mean, maybe it was like 20 feet, but it was really close.
Wow.
So they were just like walking their dogs or whatever, and he just like flies down over top of them. Dude, like kind of buzzes
How
them.
often does that happen?
I don't know.
Just walking through the park and suddenly there's like a hot air balloon that just like lands right next to you. It's like, hello.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah, and it's like totally silent. So everyone's like just kind of like, hey, what's up?
Assassins. Jump out of the air balloon.
Balloon assassin, yeah.
Freaking, yeah.
So, yeah, that's super cool, though. That's a great way to fly if you're ever going to do it.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you have, what way would you like to fly if you could? Wingsuit?
Okay, yeah.
You were looking at those the other day.
I was looking at the base jumper squirrel suit thing. I mean, it looks really cool, but I also think I would probably just die on the side of a rock face. Like
I couldn't hold my arm out any longer.
Like my arm got tired. And I just like smashed right into the side of the cliff. Anyway, yeah, I think that's a little freaky.
Yeah.
Well, okay, wait. So here, it's an excellent question. What is the most exhilarating, inspiring mode of flight transportation? Because as we were identifying, a hot air balloon seems relaxing and scenic and enjoyable, but then flying in your modern commercial airplane is like uncomfortable and a drag, and you're crammed in with people and it's noisy and you don't like it, so it's like there's varying degrees of enjoyable flight. Now I think the other thing to question is, and I think this is important coming from a fictional idea, is would it actually be enjoyable to fly in the way that Superman flies? Just your body in the atmosphere, Like, I think realistically, we fantasize about it
Yeah.
Superman can fly, and all these superheroes and superpowers, and people just fly in their little super suits and whatever.
Yeah.
But I think realistically, that's a terrible way to fly.
You don't see all the bugs that go in his
There's
teeth.
bugs. It's going to be really cold if you get too high. It could be difficult. You might have to navigate winds and stuff. It could be difficult. You might have to have like, gear things to the
Not to
wind
mention
current
extremely loud from all the wind.
Yeah, it's loud. It's I think the other thing is you can't like, how do you carry stuff with you? Like, I got to go fly somewhere and get something. It's like, it's just you can't like go
riding a motorcycle.
It's not like you're relaxing and drinking a cocktail with your friends, looking out over the scene. It's like,
your cheeks are blown back.
Yeah, it's like I kind of look at that and think, yeah, it'd be cool like a few times, and then it would be like, it's like a hassle, like I don't know if you'd actually enjoy that.
Yeah, like levitation would be way more fun.
Yeah,
like just being able to like levitate around and like I don't know, just float up to the top of the building when you need to or something,
Yeah, like slow floating might be more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Really fast flying, it's like you need to wear like a big suit. And I feel like it's kind of inconvenient, Like, what if I say, oh, if only I could just fly down to the Bahamas for vacation. Well, but then you only have what you're wearing. Like, I guess you could bring a backpack and try to slash
extra
it
pesos.
on. Yeah, it's like, I mean, you're not bringing your suitcase. Like, I've got my suitcase down here and I'm flying with it.
Your arm would get pretty sore no matter how super you are.
Yeah, you can't, oh, well, my spouse just has to fly in the plane, but I'll fly down there myself, save a plane ticket. I mean, it's like, I feel like it's not practical.
That's funny. Yeah.
Like, if all humans could fly regularly, I feel like you wouldn't really do it all the time. Like, you'd maybe just fly around slowly to go from point A to point B, but you wouldn't really want to be flying super fast.
Yeah, think of it like walking and running. It's like humans can run.
Yeah.
But how much of your day do you spend running?
That's a good point.
Almost none.
Yeah. That's another good point.
Yeah. Interesting. So we just proved humans are lazy and slow. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it's like we do maximum speed flight, which I would say is like commercial airlines, but you're just doing it to get to point A to point B. There's not really a whole lot of enjoyment out of it.
Yeah.
But then there's other forms of flight, helicopter, hot air balloon, maybe gliding or whatever, which are more about the enjoyment of it. And so it's...
You can take your time. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I saw a guy and he had like a giant drone, basically, with like a little seat attached to the bottom of it.
Oh.
And so he was like flying himself around with a drone.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
It was a huge drone, but
yeah,
it was like the same kind of quadcopter design. So he was able to, but I mean, again, it was like insanely loud. So it's like, like a little drone makes when it's like, ee!
Yeah.
It's like that times 1,000.
Oh, wow.
So it's super loud.
Yeah. That's annoying.
Yeah.
I wonder how many little plastic drones you'd have to put together to pull yourself up in the air out of like a chair or something.
It's like the Up movie, but with drones.
Up movie, but with drones.
Modern Up movie.
No. We were just watching Megamind. You know how Megamind has all those little floating drone things?
Yeah.
I can't remember what they're called. It's like something bots.
Yeah.
Like evil bots, villain bots, something.
Yeah.
It's like little bot things.
Nemesis bot. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that would be cool.
Brain bots.
Dude, I watched... There's actually a lot of independent people like trying to fly and do like different airplane construction on YouTube.
Oh, really?
So people like doing a lot of their own like little test flights and stuff. But I was watching one guy. He has like a paraglider is kind of, or wait, no, it's might be another name for it. But it's where you have like the paraglider chute at the top, but then you have like a chair with a propeller on the back.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a paraglider still?
I don't know.
Powered paraglider?
Powered? I don't know.
Yeah.
Something like that.
But yeah, he had like this little farm in Kansas or whatever. He's like, so he took off from his from his little farm, went to Taco Bell, picked up something, and went back to his house.
Whoa.
It's like,
that's a wild life.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Weird.
Yeah. It's like
that's interesting.
Like some little small town where you can land on the road just fine. But yeah.
Yeah.
It's super funny.
That's super interesting.
Huh. He's kind of using it as like his little test vehicle, personal vehicle, test personal vehicle.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. That's an interesting. Yeah, it's like, what if people just did that normally?
Yeah. Just like, it's not even more efficient necessarily. Like, he probably could have driven faster than the paraglider could go. You know? He's like, I think it was like 35 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour is what it went.
Yeah.
So it's like if you're just driving on a freeway, you're going like almost twice as fast.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. See, that's an interesting thing to think about is like, what if flight was like consumer available in an individual way, you know, as opposed to sort of bulk sold in commercial planes. You get stuff with 300 people on the plane.
Right.
It's like, what if it was like, oh, and not even just like private jet status, but it's like my one-man flyer thing that I just use to get around town instead of my car.
That would be cool.
It's like, it's interesting to
Cut
think
down
about.
a lot of roads.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen the jetpacks people are making?
I think I've only seen the jetpacks that fly over like water.
Okay.
I don't know if I've seen other jetpacks.
Yeah, they have like full-on jetpacks now.
Wow.
That are like, fully just rocket fueled.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
Yeah, it is insane. What a time to be alive, right?
Yeah.
But basically, you have like a pack on your back and then one on each arm.
Okay.
So you can like.
Oh, you control with your arms a little. Yeah, that makes sense. The whole Boba Fett thing, where it just shoots out of his back. It always made me wonder, like, how does he change directions?
Yeah.
You know?
How does he just not do front flips?
How does he not just go in circles? Like, I don't get it. It's got to change the propulsion somehow.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, using one of these jetpacks would probably only cost you like, $2,000 to go to McDonald's and fuel and maintenance on your machine. But yeah, maybe in the future it'll be more sustainable. Who knows? But yeah. And then the ultimate flight, like space rocket flight, dude.
Yeah, I know. I haven't even brought that up. I know that's
about perspective.
Yeah, seriously. That's getting to the point where that's almost, I think it's kind of consumer level now. Like it's super expensive. So elite, high amount of money.
Yeah.
And they just sort of shoot you up beyond the atmosphere. And I think you float for like a few minutes and then you come back down or whatever. But
some of it, depending on the service. But yeah.
Yeah, that's another wild thing that's getting to consumer levels,
Right?
Like if you could do some kind of, we're going to send you out into space and you're going to orbit all the way around the planet for like a full day and then you'll come back down, pay us $1 million. Like that
sounds about right.
It's like, dude, that sounds really cool.
Yeah. Like a space hotel or something.
Yeah. What's safer, doing space expedition at consumer level or the deep ocean diver?
Dude, probably space at this point, honestly.
Yeah, I mean the ocean diver didn't work out super well recently. You know? So it's like maybe space is safer. I don't know.
Could be, yeah. I mean, there's definitely been more research into space, it seems like.
Yeah.
And like more testing, so.
Yeah. I think there's just more interest in space too.
Yeah.
Like in space, you go out there and you like anybody could say, yeah, I swam in the ocean, and I just went really deep. But not anybody can say, I went to outer space. Like not anybody can just like claim an outer space kind of thing,
That's true, yeah.
And I think what you see in outer space with your eyes is like, would be super spectacular. Whereas what if you went down like 1,000 feet underwater and it was like, it's all murky. It's like, well, that sucks.
There's just a big trash heap with a bunch of plastic there. Yeah, it is true. Although, dude, some of those underwater, I'm fascinated with underwater, so I'm probably biased, but I watch all kinds of like weird rover videos of like seafloor stuff. And it's like, it's crazy to think because like there's more obviously like underwater land than there is, land on Earth. And if you think about like the Sahara Desert or something, it's like literally there could be like the size of a Sahara Desert under the ocean. So it's like if you went down to that part, it's like you wouldn't see anything. Yeah. It would just be like totally sand for hundreds of thousands of miles or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Tens of thousands of miles.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And it's pretty wild, the amount of land mass,
Yeah.
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 If only we could suck out the oceans for a while and just go explore.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
See what's down there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Without killing all the marine life.
Just put it somewhere else
and
for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually, okay, wait, this There's another funny thing. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to you before, but you know how, we are land creatures on the dry land, right? The earth. And then above us is the sky, and there's the birds, you know, who fly around in the sky. Well, I always think of like crabs as basically being the land dwellers of the sea. And the fish are basically like the birds of the sea,
Yeah.
It's like if you're there are bottom dwellers, right? Bottom feeders that basically, they don't really swim. They just sort of crawl around the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
And so to them, it's almost like they're like the land mammals or land creatures
That is funny.
of the ocean. And then everything else is like the birds that are flying around,
That is interesting.
So then we humans, if we're floating around in like boats on the very top, we're like the
aliens?
furthest up you can get in. Yeah, we're like coming from space,
Interesting, yeah.
We're like coming from outside the atmosphere.
Yeah, because the air
entering in through our special ships.
to abduct crabs and eat them.
Yeah, in order to do heinous experiments.
Kind of checks out, yeah.
So it's like if you're on a boat, you're basically just flying in the farthest reaches of the ocean sky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So maybe there's people sailing on our sky.
That's right.
Overhead right now.
They're just skimming the waves of the air atmosphere.
Oh, interesting. Huh.
Yeah, that's a funny thing to think about.
That's actually like a cool idea. I like that.
Yeah.
Huh. That would be funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's Ellen Deal up there sailing around.
That's right. That's right. It's funny, too, because people, in ancient times pictured floating ships, like a sailing ship. They're like, oh, and the magical pirate ship from Peter Pan had pixie dust on it, and it could fly in the air.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's all these ideas of flying ships and things like that.
Yeah, carrying the sun or doing whatever.
Whatever they're doing. But it's interesting to think about, well, what if you could have something that could like we can only create planes that fly on the air because they have really high speed or if they're very light, but it's like, what if something could sit on air and like float on air, like
if
a boat floats, Yeah. Like if
it's just density, right?
It's just, it just has to be, I guess that's the hot air balloon kind of thing, but it's also, that's like hot air rising. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, on water, surface tension kind of holds it. And then like buoyancy of like, as long as I can't do the math on that.
Yeah, because I think it's just because water is so dense that if something pushes into it, there's so much pressure from the density of water that it pushes that thing back out again.
Yeah.
Versus if in the air is so loose, things fall through it. So you need something that's like lighter than air to float above it. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's my unscientific understanding of it.
No, that makes total sense. Because then if like the boat is underwater, then it keeps sinking at that point. Because it's like, it's not pushing, it's not creating that tension. Yeah. Yeah, and then displacement of water. Yeah, anyway. Someone tell us what we're saying wrong or what I'm saying wrong.
Yeah. Well, we'll just have to bring Neil deGrasse Tyson on. So
there you go.
Tyson, so that he can explain it to us.
He's the last person I'd want to talk to. No offense.
Really?
Yeah.
We'll talk about that afterwards.
Yeah.
Anyway, man. Okay, on that note, there's flying.
One last question, though. Would you go on a rocket?
To outer space? Oh, yeah, I would totally do that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. If it was like...
Oh, and it's one way I forgot to mention.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
Maybe not.
Just kidding.
You're going to Mars and you can never come back. No, I agree with Elon Musk. The first people who go to Mars are going to suffer and die. I want to go there in like 100 years when the colony's all nice and posh and they've set up the Mars resort. Yeah. And then I'll go there.
That's how people did it with America too.
Yeah.
They're like, let the wagons go first, and then the women and the children go first.
Yeah, it's like, you guys go and suffer in the Wild West.
Once you've eaten each other at, what was the place? Donner's Pass.
Donner's Pass.
Yeah.
Once you've all done the horrible things and suffered, we'll come along, we'll buy your land from you and just sort of...
Once you've established Hollywood, we'll come over.
Yeah.
Once it's cool.
Once we find out there's gold in San Francisco.
Yeah, that's true, there. Right? Just got to offer people money.
Yeah.
If there was enough money in Mars, people would go, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, if there was like, you could go to Mars and become a billionaire, then we'd make it. That would be the number one priority.
Yeah.
Everybody would be doing it.
As soon as they find oil on Mars.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, ooh.
No, it won't be oil. It'll be unobtainium.
Dude, I was going to say that. You heard my brain. That's weird. You heard my brain thoughts.
Well, you can't help but joke about unobtainium because the name is so stupid.
It is.
Let me give expedition on the story that everybody knows except the viewer. Do you see this rock? This is unobtainium. We need to get this. It's like...
there was do you know what Ratchet and Clank is?
Oh, that sounds so familiar.
Those old like PlayStation games.
Oh yeah. That sounds. I think I've seen
like
that.
Alien creature and the robot.
Oh yeah.
But they had like a metal in there called raritanium.
Raritanium, just so on the nose.
It's like hard to get. But yeah.
Oh man.
Okay, so you'd go in a rocket.
I'd go in a rocket. Yeah. If it was like Brandon will send you to the bottom of the ocean or out into space to fly around the moon and back, I would fly around the moon. I would totally do that.
Yeah.
That sounds so cool to me. Yeah.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get some good pictures, dude.
Yeah.
Like
I love the idea of seeing outer space with my own eyes. And I love the idea of like looking back on Earth.
Maybe
seeing that it actually is flat.
You wouldn't actually be able to tell because it would just look like a disc to you.
Yeah.
So you could never tell.
That's true. Depending on you'd have to go around it in a circle to know for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could just be that you're flying straight up above the flat Earth and coming back down.
Well, how do you know when you're going in a circle that the disc isn't like following your...
There's always an excuse.
No, I'm just kidding.
There's always a way to explain it.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It just depends how creative you are. Would you do a spacewalk?
Oh, that sounds super freaky.
Right?
That sounds like puke in my suit freaky, to be totally honest.
Yeah, it's like, it's only 100,000 miles below me until Earth.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
I mean, what I've heard is that it's really, I mean, just from listening to some interviews from astronauts, they said that it's really freaky when you're looking at Earth and you think you're going to fall towards it. But when you look at the space station, the space station almost seems like it's down. And so then it feels better when you're on the space station, and it's like there's no sense of falling.
Yeah.
So it's like, as long as I've tethered and as long as my hand is holding on, then like I'm not really going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it feels like being stationary probably.
Yeah. Like I think people imagine it like you're going to be holding on and gravity's going to be like sucking you down to Earth. And you're like, no, I'm trying not to fall. You know, like you're hanging on a cliff in a movie or something. But really it's like, nope, you're not going anywhere. Like there you are.
Yeah, that would be a weird feeling to have nothing below your feet but like being just stationary.
Yeah.
And like
there's like an unknown vast of infinity out there somewhere. There's nothing in between me and that.
Dude, it'd almost be worse to have like the Earth above you and like space below you.
That would be freaky.
Like, ooh, okay, it's probably like 30 light years to that star below me.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's trippy.
Have we ever like in movies?
Yeah.
Sometimes there's scenes in movies where a character gets like their tether is cut and they float off into space and they just die. Like, has that ever even happened? You know, like I don't know if that's ever happened in the history of space. I don't know. Not that I know of. At least if it has happened, they kept it all secret. They don't tell us about that.
We used the defective clips from last year. Dang it.
They all came back. Weren't there 5 people on the mission? Nope, there was always 4. There were always 4.
It's like a big blank spot in all the photos.
Like, I don't know, man. Maybe they just cover that stuff up. I don't know.
Who knows? Yeah. Oh man, that's freaking me out.
Yeah, that's super freaky.
Yeah.
As far as I know, that's never happened.
No, I mean, yeah.
I don't know.
Like,
I think we've done a good job taking precautions on that.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not that hard. Like, just don't let go of the rope.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. That's like one of the first technologies we invented was ropes. So if we haven't gotten that right by now,
yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Plus, I think they have like little jetpacks on them too, like little.
Really?
Yeah,
like think so.
Little air thrusters.
Oh yeah, just release some sort of air valve and it'll push you back towards the ship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it is weird to think like the space station. I forget how fast it's going, but it's like literally going like thousands of miles an hour.
Oh yeah, so fast.
It's like insane.
Yeah.
And you would just like never know it because you're going the same speed.
Yeah. But there's no resistance. There's no air. There's nothing that's gonna.
Yeah. Which is weird that it shows like that speed's not the problem for people. It's like it's all the other stuff that comes with it, like the air coming at you, or you know, just different things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Super weird.
Yeah. That is a weird thing that like we can travel through space super fast.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter how fast you're going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you go like 100 miles an hour in a car and you're like, whoa, I'm feeling it. Or, you know, it's like take too many G's on a roller coaster and it's like, oh, like I'm blacking out now.
Yeah.
But it's like because you're changing direction.
Right.
And it's like that's the huge problem.
Yeah.
It's so trippy. Huh. I'm gonna have to ponder that one some more.
Yeah.
I love space.
Deep thoughts. Deep thoughts about flying, space.
Deep thoughts in deep space.
Deep space thoughts.
Deep Space Nine.
All right. I hope we can all have some good dreams about flying in outer space.
Yeah, or nightmares.
Or nightmares. I feel like I'm actually trending towards nightmare right now.
Just depends what movie you've watched last. If it was Gravity or Interstellar, it's going to change whether it was a...
That's right. That's right.
Or Apollo...
13.
Yeah, 13. Thank you.
Yeah. So what inspires you, Paul?
Yeah.
What question would you like to ask me?
Have you ever grown anything in your life?
Well, I have a beard that I've grown.
Okay.
And plants, everything I've tried to grow that was a plant died horrible deaths. Either I overwatered them or I underwatered them or something bad happens. Who knows?
Okay.
So, no.
Have you ever grown a seed?
I feel like I did some kind of seed growing experiment when I was young doing like science class.
Okay.
And it was like, what happens to the seed when you plant it in the dirt?
Yeah.
And I did that. And I remember something about that, but no.
There's a little bit of green.
That was only when I was being monitored by adults. Now, that I don't think the seed would live. I don't think I would be able to maintain that kind of responsibility.
Okay. Well, don't have kids anytime.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
So I don't have pets.
Yeah, right. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so my inspiring thing, I don't know how I'm going to segue this, but is I'll just say gardening.
Okay.
Or farming, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, specifically like permaculture and regenerative agriculture. Yeah, I think there's actually even Phil and I were just talking about this. So if you're watching, Phil, hello, Phil.
Hey, Phil. We recorded this right after you were on the phone, so
yeah,
now you know.
Yeah, so this actually had been my inspiring thing for last week, even before we talked. But
oh yeah,
yeah, I've kind of just been inspired to start a permaculture park, let's say.
Okay.
So like the idea of combining, you know, like a good social space with food, I think is like a really cool idea. Because it's like, how many parks do you go to that, like, wouldn't it be great if you went to a park and there was just like apple trees everywhere?
Yeah.
Like, dude, that's a no-brainer.
Everybody could get naked. Like the Garden of Eden.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's like, I don't know, maybe.
No snakes.
Maybe it's a park in Oregon or something, or San Francisco.
Esalen.
Where?
Esalen. That's like the nudist colony in the Bay Area or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Or south of the Bay or Santa Cruz. Or, I don't know.
Okay.
It's a famous nudist colony.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. If that's if the park is there, then by all means, go for it. You do you. But this would be a little bit more wholesome.
More family friendly?
More family friendly.
Right,
Thank you.
That's probably the way it should be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't listen to Brandon's ideas.
Or else or else we're going to start growing fig leaves instead.
I was jumping on the Garden of Eden bandwagon there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Just put a bunch of fig trees so people can cover themselves. But yeah, I do like having a bunch of like veggies and fruits and like just cool, like you could do like an aquaponics like pond setup too. So you could do, you know, like kind of have your fish and then people could eat the fish.
Ooh.
So you go to like the park and do a little fishing, you know, and then grab your tilapia on the way out.
There you go.
After you're done playing. But yeah, I was like, dude, that's like, we need to, because we have like all, like in a lot of culture, it's like everything is just so, I mean, I want to use the word Titanic, but like everything is just like, like monoculture, where it's like everything is just, it's all this one thing. We're all in on this one thing. We're all in on this one thing. If it's a park, it's going to be the best park you've ever seen, and that's all it is. If it's a farm, it's going to be like, we're going to grow one thing and we're going to do it the best that anyone's ever seen. We're going to grow all the corn, we're going to grow all the soy, whatever it is, and like it does make it easier because you don't have to think about as many like moving parts together and stuff like that. But I think the best of worlds is one where you can combine like elements.
Yeah.
And, have like multifunctional spaces and all that kind of stuff. Because then you're just really utilizing and maximizing space. Kind of like, I think appealing to people's, like, I think human brains are like, this is just my own ramblings, but like, I think they're very wired to like appreciate a host of different experiences. Like, I mean, just think about like emotions, right? It's like, there's so many different emotions coming in, and we're able to like process them all and like kind of sort them and deal with them and like mix them. So it's like the human experience is really good at dealing with like lots of inputs, and like I think it makes your brain light up in fun ways when that happens. That movie I was showing the other day, The Journey to the West, with like that crazy weird scene, the Chinese movie.
Oh yeah.
It's like, I think that to me that's the perfect example of that, where it's like it starts out like it's a horror movie, and then it ends in like there's a bunch of action scenes, there's like a ton of comedy, and it's like, what a great like emotional roller coaster, like portraying all these different things. And so to me, like that makes me very excited, because it's like it's always keeping me on the edge of my seat, and like new things are happening. So in a long roundabout way of saying, I think like having these multi-use spaces and multifunctionality areas is like super cool to like really, I don't know, promote thriving, I guess. Is there any like multifunctional spaces that you think of that like come to mind, where it's like I think a coffee shop would be an example of that, right? Where it's like you go to work, but then you also go to like drink coffee. It's like this kind of like, I think it's a multi-use space in some way.
Well, there's a few things that come to mind of examples of that kind of space. One, I'm thinking of back in Santa Barbara, Alice Keck Park, where it was like a little botanical garden, but also kind of a picnic area.
Yeah.
People would go and just relax there. People would like take photos. Sometimes there'd be events. And then like right across the street, it's almost the same park. You had like Kids World. It's like kids jumping on the jungle gym kind of thing. Like very close proximity parks that were kind of different purposes, which I think was cool.
Yeah.
And I'm almost imagining what you're describing as like the botanical garden that's like very well landscaped and groomed, but then there's also like food plants that you could eat from there as well.
Totally.
That's kind of what I'm imagining. Another thing that comes to mind, well, two other things that come to mind is that one coffee shop here in Coeur d'Alene that's called The Fern, where it's like a plant store where they sell plants, but then they also, and I don't think that they still have it, but they once upon a time they had a little like coffee bar.
Okay.
It was just kind of tucked away in the back, and you could just go back there and like order coffee and just chill in the plant store.
Dude, they probably had a place to put all their coffee grounds,
right? Yeah, I don't know if they did it like that or not, but I used to love going in there, just because it was so relaxing, and you'd be like the one person drinking. I think they closed it down because it was just too slow. I think they weren't getting enough coffee business, but the plant shop is still there.
Probably because people didn't know there was coffee there.
I think people didn't know. Yeah. I think it wasn't super advertised.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I'm thinking about, and I don't know if you've ever looked into these, I actually just saw these this week and meant to show it to you, but it's the Ethiopian forest churches. Have you ever seen those?
What?
So the Ethiopian.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just introduce you to something here.
My mind's just been blown.
We're gonna have to watch this afterwards. But
please, yeah.
In Ethiopia, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church has apparently for like 1,000 years cultivated these church forests, where the church sits in the middle of a forest, and they because
whoa, so cool.
So what they do is they basically have, I don't know, maybe like 20 acres of land or something like that. That's like a circle. And they have like a wall that's just to keep out cattle and a lot of animal life that would graze in the forest.
And lions.
Yeah,
I don't know.
The lion could jump over the wall. It's not that high of a wall. It's maybe like a 4-foot high wall. Like it'll keep a cow out, but not of a cat. And then they basically just have these amazing thick like jungle forests that they basically just like let it run wild.
Wow.
But then they'll keep a diversity of different edible plants all throughout. And so then the church is just right in the middle, and the whole idea is that the church is sitting in the Garden of Eden. And so then the people come to church, and there's all the people who go to that church kind of maintain the forest. They can pick the fruits of the forest. They like eat at the church. And what happened, the reason why this is kind of a big deal right now is that Ethiopia in past 50 years or whatever basically has eradicated all their forests in order to create agricultural and cattle lands. And so now Ethiopia is having a massive deforestation, and the only forests that are left is like these church forests that are just basically sectioned off for church property.
Wow.
So you have like this massive farmland that's totally barren, and then this one little oasis of like church forest right in the middle. And so then all the farmers are kind of coming to these church forests, and that's like their little church hub that they go to. But then there's like no other trees in the area.
Wow.
You know? So that's another thing that comes to mind when I'm thinking of like really amazing permaculture stuff that people have cultivated.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, that's
I'm
insane.
going to have to show you afterwards. It's really cool.
No, I'm very inspired right now.
Yeah, that's good.
Because that's like exactly what I want to do to some extent.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, okay, wait. On that note, let me just go another step here. Have you looked at the Great Green Wall of the Sahara? Have you looked at that before?
No.
The Great Green Wall, I've
seen people doing work over there, but
because the Sahara Desert is slowly migrating south, and these countries that are right on the border of the southern Sahara Desert are basically saying, wait a minute, our country is going to become a giant desert in another 100 years or whatever. How do we stop this? So they're trying to incentivize people creating forestry on the edge of the Sahara Desert. So they're like
sand and stuff.
Exactly, yeah. So they're trying to create food forests and all kinds of jungle land. They're trying to push the jungle up into the Sahara and like reforestation of the Sahara Desert. So there's kind of this like forest war with the Sahara and Africa.
That's
right
trippy.
now. Yeah. It's really interesting.
Huh. Yeah, I've been watching a lot of amazing things in Africa with like, trying to preserve water, and like, because a lot of the water tables are like running low and stuff. You're having to like dig deeper and stuff, and so they're like learning how to kind of recycle water, how to like recapture it and stuff. And it's insane, dude. Like, and that's the thing. It's like just by getting creative, you can solve so many problems in this world. Like a lot of it's I've been fascinated with beavers for a while. And like it's such like an innocuous little animal, but like when they actually are doing their work, they're like, because when you basically like we're all about efficiency, right? Or a lot of times. And so it's like you want the water to go in the straight line from A to B in the shortest point possible, And like what do beavers do? It's like they mess everything up. They like build dams so the water like backs up and then like starts turning, and like they dig all these other little channels out from their pond, to like drain the water and stuff. But it's like when they're doing that, they're actually slowing the water, which lets it like soak into the ground more. And then they also build these little channels off to the side, so they're spreading like the water out.
That's true.
And and then it's like they're actually creating like good microbiomes by slowing the water to like let like certain bacteria grow. They're like creating places for animals and like prey and predator to or prey to drink, and then predators to come. So they're literally building their own ecosystems.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And like solving all these crazy problems that we've come up with by like, digging these channels and canals everywhere. And so it's like, dude, there's so many good like solutions for like capturing water, and like a lot of these desert places that don't get a ton of water, it's like all the water just kind of runs off when it does rain. But if you actually just kind of build like swales to capture water, and even just slow it down a little bit, like your water retention in the soil goes up just by insane amounts.
Wow.
Or you can channel some of that runoff into like ponds or whatever, And so it's like, because you don't think about it when it rains, it's like, oh, it's raining. But like in a water deprived place, like every ounce of rain is precious, And it's like, if you're not capturing it, it's just sliding off the top of your ground into your neighbor's place or into another country or wherever,
into the ocean, and you just lost it.
Yeah. So being able to like kind of capture that, it's actually like super important.
Yeah.
And there's like lots of ways and stuff, but people are kind of rediscovering a lot of those things now.
Yeah.
You can see some like before and after pictures of like these, kind of deserty places, especially a lot of work in Afghanistan. And it's insane. Like it'll be just like dry, cracked ground. And like in 10 years of just doing these practices, it's like palm trees growing, fruit trees growing.
Yeah.
It's like little like, swampy areas and stuff. And it's like, wow, that's so cool.
I mean, I think it's to me, it seems like the original call of man to like, you've got to work the ground and cultivate it.
Yeah.
Like I imagine that in the Garden of Eden, maybe things were just already so designed by God that it was all the water irrigation naturally worked perfect. I don't know. I'm just imagining.
Yeah.
But now we have desert and wilderness lands, and it's like, it's the job of humanity that we need to come to those and cultivate it, because otherwise the wilderness is almost like corruption of the earth that's just spreading, killing all your wildlife and your
it's like that. It's like that green wall,
The green. You have to create the green wall. You have to create the forest, and we have to like. It's almost like working an uphill battle. It's really hard to do, but like you can do it.
Yeah. 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 We have the tools, and like obviously people are very creative. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's just. It seems like a worthy goal, I guess. And this kind of ties into my second idea I had. And I didn't know whether to go with like permaculture or world building as my topic of what inspires me. But like for me, I've always been interested in world building, and like, obviously it's come out in fictional ways a lot, where it's like I'm writing stories or coming up with cool environments. But I was trying to think like, what is world building actually? It's like, well, first and foremost, it's like when you're transforming the world through permaculture, like that's world building. It's like the most physical sense of world building. You're like changing the world. And the idea of just world building in and of itself is like, I think, a way where you're kind of like setting up a vision, like a larger vision that doesn't exist yet. And that's what world building is in a lot of sense. It's like finding something that doesn't exist, pointing out maybe the good or the bad about this situation, and kind of like holding that up as an ideal or a story or some sort of, idea or a story. And so like, I think permaculture is a way to make that like actually practical. Whereas like if you're writing or doing whatever, it's like you can point out things that are maybe a little bit more abstract or morals or wisdom or warnings even, but you can't really like affect the world outside of, I mean, it'll affect the world if people engage with it, but yeah, it's like, I don't know, I'm kind of seeing the benefit of making like a physical impact right away. I think that'd be kind of cool. Help people get inspired with that.
It is interesting. Yeah. World building. Like if you're farming, you're like building the world. You're like, you're changing the earth, like the soils, the dirts, the plants, the wild, the ecosystems. Like you are shaping what's happening on this planet. You know? And that is kind of a fun thing. If you take it out of the fantasy context and put it into like the real world context, it's like, yeah, dude, everybody has an opportunity to do some world building.
Right. And that's why it's like, it was funny. I was talking with a guy at church yesterday. We were talking about like just kids being outside and like, and why they always like play Minecraft or whatever. He's like, yeah, my little nephew or whatever, he just plays Minecraft. And then when we go outside or whatever, he just like keeps talking about Minecraft. And he's like talking about a Minecraft chicken while we're next to the chicken coop outside, And it's like, obviously they don't see the irony in that, It's like, I want to go play Minecraft. And there's like, dude, there's like dirt right there. That's what you're doing in Minecraft is like moving dirt around.
You got to talk to my parents at some point and ask them about how when I was young, I was really into water irrigation.
Oh, sure.
And I think when I was like 5 or 6 years old, there was a little hill in our backyard. And I used to take the hose to the top of the hill and I would dig channels in the dirt. And there was like a season of my life when I was really obsessed with my little channel creation, and I just was irrigating water. And I loved, like, I'm just going to drip the water on, and I'm going to pool it here, and it's going to flow over this, and then it's going to go next to this little root and around that rock. And I was really into it.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was the coolest thing. And my parents had to, like, pull me back because it's like, okay, our water bill is sitting up there. Like, you got to stop playing with the water here, you know?
Yeah, water in Santa Barbara isn't cheap.
Yeah, I know, right? But yeah, or I even think about when I was young going on hiking trails. And when you hike, sometimes you hike next to a little creek bed. And then there'd be points when you'd stop and you'd want to all, like, go grab rocks. Let's see if we can dam up the water. It was just fun. It was just fun to do.
It's like the first instinct.
It's just like, what should we do? Let's all, like, try to throw rocks into the little creek and try to fill it up as much as we can. And so it's just like weird little, it's like, dude, that's irrigation, that's damming, farming, construction. Like, there's all kinds of weird things that kids just naturally want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, it's like, unfortunately, I don't think they have access to it, which is why they turn to the video games a lot of times.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, if you live in a suburb or whatever, you can't actually go out and chop down a tree and, you know, carve it up and do all that kind of stuff. But yeah, which is like the natural instinct for sure.
Yeah.
Like, I remember cutting down lots of trees as a kid.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this and turn it into my fort and, you know, make a weapon out of it and do all this kind of stuff, all this like little primal stuff. But yeah. I had like little tractors that I used to like scoot around on, and I would like make like city infrastructure. I'd be like, this is the road, and this is where it merges here, and it's like, you know, there's a parking garage there for everything, and then it's the freeway.
Yeah. I think we have all of that. Yeah, primal instinct, those activities of plants and dirt and playing with things and trying to take something wild and making it ordered or constructed in some way.
Yeah.
And I think that is sort of like a natural, it's very satisfying. Like, people want to do it. There's like an itch to want to do that, I think.
Yeah.
It's just that now we don't always have, you know, good outlets. Like, not everyone has 10 acres of just random land in their backyard. It's just like, all right, kids, just go play with whatever.
Yeah.
So what do? You've got to imagine, read books, watch movies about world building, play a video game where you're constructing your own world. It's like, you got to have that outlet, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think in a lot of ways, you know, the video games, they can be good, but like, it's just, it's the balance is like out of whack. It's hard to get like the balance back, but
yeah.
Yeah.
If only farming was also addictive.
Well, it kind of is. I was talking to another guy, and, you know, he has like, you know, he's very strict with his kids about like screen time or whatever. Like, they don't even have Wi-Fi in the house. And, you know, he's like, yeah, we got like 2 goats and a cow and some sheep and stuff, and it's cool. And I'm like, oh man, that sounds like a lot of work, because he like works full time or whatever. He's like, I don't do any of it. He's like, all my kids do it. I was like, oh wow. So whose idea was the farm actually? He's like, oh, it was my idea.
Yeah.
He's like, but the kids actually love it now, and they would never want to get rid of the animals.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like,
Yeah.
you know, once they start doing it, it's like fine.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with kids, man. I'm just like realizing, working in this new job, like, you just kind of have to make kids do stuff before they realize they like actually like it.
Yeah.
It's like, if you just be like, hey, let's do this thing, they're like, no, that's dumb.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they like get into it, they're like, oh yeah. It's like, I thought you said it was dumb like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
They're like, no, that was before.
Yeah.
They're like, what changed? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just doing it now.
Yeah. That's so funny. That's totally true.
But it works the same for adults. Like, I procrastinate on all kinds of stuff, and it's like, I hate doing that thing, or I don't want to do that thing.
Yeah.
But as soon as I get in the groove, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, we're rolling now.
Yeah.
Like, that was fun.
Yeah, it's true. I know. We need those people to coach us and make us do things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. We all need that.
Kind of get you over the initial like resistance hump or whatever, you know, it is. But, yeah. I know. Yeah, dude, I think just, here's one of my rants. It's turning into from a channel of like inspiring things to me just getting stuff off my chest, but lawns, dude.
Okay.
Like, imagine if everybody, instead of a lawn, they had like food growing in their front yard.
That would be interesting.
Dude, there'd be so much food in the world.
Yeah.
Like, and instead of paying, you know, a gardener to come mow your lawn, you pay him to come prune your trees or do like fruit tree work or whatever, you know, like work with your vegetables.
Yeah.
So like, you know, a gardener would literally be a gardener at that point.
Yeah, totally.
Not just a lawn and blow service, you know?
Yeah.
Like, dude, that'd be insane.
Yeah. Like what if what if like your backyard was like a little grassy patch and your front yard or even vice versa? But yeah, it's like people usually have 2 yards.
Yeah.
What if one of your yards was just like a full on garden and the other yard was whatever you want it to be, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I see that from time to time. I'll drive by houses and I'll see that they have an entire yard space that's purely garden.
Yeah.
You know, and that always seems really cool that people have done that.
Well, it's like my mom's front yard. Like, I mean, it's fully functional. She has like paths going through it. She's got like little sitting areas and stuff. And it's like, dude, what a great space. And she's got, you know, lemon trees, orange trees, a bunch of veggies and herbs and stuff.
That's cool.
And it's like fully functional and fully edible.
Yeah.
Except for the wood chips. Unless you're missing fiber.
That's funny. Well, that's like Zach's backyard.
Yeah.
You know, you go in his backyard and he's got like a big garden space, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you can walk through there. The kids are always playing around there, like finding worms and stuff.
Yeah.
And like,
yeah, he's got like a whole farm on one side and on the other fence is like chickens, you know? So yeah, it's great.
And it doesn't feel like cramped or like a, you know, annoying space to be in or anything. You know, it's like, what else are people doing with their backyards?
Yeah.
Not much.
Just stare at it. Let the dogs run around in it.
Yeah.
Clean up their poop afterwards.
I hate that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing. If you're just like looking at your backyard anyway, it's like, why not have food growing in it? People like looking at that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It does. It makes your garden more interesting, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. To like have a project or some productive thing you're doing in the back of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like people like looking at nature, and it's like, it's more interesting than grass to look at. So.
Like I remember when I lived at that one house in Santa Barbara, the Haven, with all those guys, and we had, I think we had like 8 different fruit trees in our backyard.
Yeah.
We had, what did we had? I think we had.
I think there was a pear tree, right?
I think there was like pears. I think that there was a couple apple trees. There was like a lemon tree, an orange tree,
A plum tree.
I think maybe plums or apricots or something.
Yeah.
There was even a banana tree.
Oh wow.
Which just didn't produce bananas, but it was a banana tree. I don't know. There was just so many random weird things back there.
Yeah.
And we like did nothing to maintain those, man. We just let them fall on the ground, and we like wouldn't do anything with those. But
yeah,
it's like if I was, you know, at that stage of my life, if I was more willing and more interested in that, then it could have been a really cool backyard. But
or if you're more poor, you'd be like, dude, this is like $20 worth of apricot or whatever.
Food all the time.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, or if you're like super health conscious, you know, it's like, man, this is like $30 worth of apples that are good for me. That's crazy.
I think the only thing I ever really did was just pick the lemons off and use lemons. Otherwise, I didn't really do anything else.
Yeah, you kind of take it for granted if you grew up with it.
Yeah.
Or like if you're just not, I don't know.
Yeah.
But then once you're like older, you need to start buying your own food and like you want to eat more variety. You're like, oh man, this is actually like crazy awesome.
Yeah.
Like up in Priest River, we had strawberries we would pick each year for somebody.
Oh yeah.
And we would like just give them half, you know? And it was like, dude, you just like go pick like $60 to $80 worth of strawberries.
Wow.
Just like perfect organic, like, you know the farm, it's like right next door.
Wow.
It's not a farm, it was just somebody who had like literally 200 feet of strawberries.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so many. But yeah, it was just like delicious. You know, you'd spend a couple, like maybe an hour or two and get $80 worth of strawberries. It's like, poof, can't pass that up.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, you're picking your own food. Like, how fun is that?
Yeah.
It's like, it was great. So,
yep.
Grow your own food. Mm-hmm. Find a community of people that grows food. That's even better.
Yeah.
Because then you don't have to like, if you have to go somewhere or whatever, it's like you don't have to find people to house sit your plants or whatever, animals. Yeah.
All right. Find your permaculture commune.
Do it. Hit me up if you want. Well, I'm trying to start something.
That's right. So. Yeah. Hire Paul for your consulting.
Yeah, I don't know anything. I'm learning on the job, but we'll figure it out. All right. See ya.
All right. Later, people.